Hey everybody, welcome to What Comes Up Comes Out. I just want to talk to you all before I go meet a new friend. So I want to continue along the same path that I did last week. A lot of people shared with me how real and honest I appeared. Although I hope that doesn't mean that I came across as fake or indifferent before. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about what my therapist said to me. And like, I really think about what she says, not because I agree or disagree, but it is a different perspective. So before I get started, please let's take care of housekeeping. Please make sure you select that notification button and subscribe. Make sure you are leaving comments, whether you agree, disagree, you want to hear something completely different. I know I keep saying podcast, and really this is kind of like a video log or me just kind of talking through my thoughts. But I'm going to continue with the title podcast. One thing I want to say is last week, so I have an appointment with her tomorrow, which I'm excited about. And then next week, Wednesday, my appointments are now more regular. So they're weekly versus every 2 weeks because her book is really like she's booked to capacity, in the words of Tamar Braxton. So last week, Wednesday, I took notes for the first time. I'm going to actually get a tape recorder because I feel like I missed some of what was being said because I was taking notes, kind of like in college. You know, you're trying to catch everything the professor says, you're writing notes, and you're missing something. I learned to use a tape recorder, although I can't find mine. I bought one for the Woman Thou Art Loose conference last year, had it, recorded. I don't know where it's at. I'm going to have to try and find it versus buying a new one. Now, if I can't find it, we'll go ahead with this notebook. So she asked, what did I want to talk about, which is her normal standard. And I told her dealing with the acceptance of divorcing Eric. And there were some test results that she had me do, kind of like an assessment, but not really. It was to help determine it was like a fight or flight or fear type of test. Anyway, we mostly just stuck with the acceptance piece, okay? I told her at the time that I was feeling a lot of emotions, acceptance, overwhelmed, stressed, and somewhat I don't care. So she said something that I thought was interesting. So for those of you who know me, please don't feel like, okay, this woman is just crazy. You need to leave. I don't know where she's going with all of this. So that's why I'm going back Monday. She said, because she's asked me in the past, am I difficult to work with? And I told her people would say yes. I explained to her that one of my associates who met me during my grieving process of Eric, I still worked. I didn't take time. I should have took time. Even though I had bereavement, I was still doing stuff versus just sitting and trying to process. She said, Aquinas, I thought you were rude just based off how you were telling us, we only get 2 months with you. And there really didn't seem to be any type of niceness, and that was harsh. That's not a compliment to me because I work very hard to ensure that I'm open to all people and that people know they have options when we work together. I just happen to be the leader and you happen to be the subordinate if you look at it that way, right? But we are going to mutually and collectively and collaborate for your success because your success is my success. I don't know everything. Then I asked my other agent and she was just like, excuse me, Aquinas, you just weren't the current soup. And you know how some people can form bonds quickly. And I said, okay, so I took that statement. I thought, wow, what was going on in my life for me to be perceived as rude? And Eric had just died in January. I was not sleeping in February, March. I got them in April. So I could certainly see how I could come across as rude. Well, my therapist correlated however she did. And she was like, Aquinas, I don't think you're rude. I think you're unnurtured. And I thought, what? I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. Google unnurtured. That's what she had me do. And she said, I think some of that stems just based off of what I've learned from you, your childhood. Then she went on to say that you have been unprotected. And I thought, hold on, wait a minute. You will not get in this session and just talk about how, because I heard her saying, my mama didn't protect me, which is not true. My mama protected me. Then she, later on, I am telling this out of order, talked about how I'm not loved. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What, ma'am? What are you talking about? Give me a second. It's a water break. Essentia. It refreshes you. Back to the scheduled program. So I thought, wait a minute. Whoa, what are you talking about? this is why I need a tape recorder so I can recall the specifics of how we got to this, because I really don't recall. She asked me, what are your tools for peace? And I said, I smile when I meet people and I make sure they know they have options. We can do this or this, even if it's just two, because it's a psychological thing for people. You don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't know everything. I'm just meeting you. And I'm specifically talking about work because I meet so many new people so often. She told me that I'm shrewd in my delivery. Again, she made me Google this word. You all do the same. I did not write it down. And I said, wait a minute, I am not a conniving person. I don't like that description being applied to me. And she said something to the effect of, Beyonce has support points. And I thought, okay, never thought me and Beyonce being the same. She's Beyonce. And that's not to say that I don't deem myself worthy, but people know her name. She said, for example, Beyonce's at the point of a triangle. She has Kelly on one side and she has Michelle on another. They're supporting what she's doing. Then she talked about how she performed at the halftime and how she had the whole football stadium filled, and I was like, okay. She asked the question, do you need them or do you want people around? And I was like, what's the difference? Sometimes people want people around. Sometimes you need people around. She said, when you let people in, it's because they serve as a purpose. And I thought, oh my gosh, what? All right, so you telling me I'm not authentic? So we're going to use Allison and Aisha because those are the most, my current circle. And that's not to say that I don't befriend other people, but I was like, it just happened. We happened to be working together and that's how we got to be close. And I was like, so is she saying that I only need them around because I'm working? Or is she saying that I want, what are you really trying? And it's not like she's saying one or the other, but these are the thoughts that I'm having when she's talking to me. So she asked me 2 questions. What do men represent and what do women represent? And for the sake of argument, I said the same thing, safety, security. For women, I put perseverance and endurance. Anyway, sorry. It's just baffling to me how someone that does not know you can take what you say. And I'm paying this woman, right? And I'm not mad. Please don't misunderstand me. But how someone can take what you say or your story based on your perspective and hear something completely different. This is what's been fascinating to me in my sessions with her. Part of why I keep going. She said something that my daddy told me when I moved to California. She said, Precious, you like the thrill of the chase. And that's not untrue. I get bored very easily once I've accomplished what I've accomplished. And one of the things that my therapist has said to me, and again, I'm telling this out of order, this was a different session. She said, Aquinas, if your company's expectation is a 3 to be proficient, then you have to be okay with people being proficient at 3. And I told her, I was like, no, as a leader, my job is to tap in and to help push them to a 4 or a 5 or whatever your company standard may be. Ultimately, I'm supposed to help people achieve the best that they can and not just accept. She said, but some people work very hard to get to a 3. And I said, you're not wrong. I said, but you can't just get to a 3 and think that's it. You got to maintain it. That's my job. So sometimes you may be a 3.5, you may be a 3.1, you may be a 4, but that is my job to make sure that I push you and I support you, encourage you, as well as challenge you. Then she asked me, so when I asked you then she asked the question, who represent love? I said, my mom. She said, well, why didn't you say that when I asked you? I said, I didn't know you were looking for people. I thought you were looking for words. Is it just me or has anybody else ever been to a therapy session and the therapist does not know you, just met you, you're paying them to see you, says one thing, you give them what you think they want because that's what people normally say, then they're like, no, that's not what I want. But you didn't say that. So for me, it's like you keep changing the rules. So for me, that is, that's who represents love. Then she started saying things like vicarious trauma. She had me look that up too. Then she said stuff like PTSD. And ultimately what I learned from this session was a lot of stuff that happened in my youth and my childhood has impacted my ability to interact or not interact with people. She said whenever there is pain, she said you get out of there. And she said, violence and trauma can certainly impact us in our adulthood. Again, I'm paraphrasing this, and again, this is not as cohesive as I would like for it to be, because again, I was writing while she was talking. I may end up buying an inexpensive tape recorder because I just checked my house. I've been traveling a lot this year, and I was like, maybe I left it in one of my suitcases because I did change. Can't find. I have no idea where my pink tape recorder is from Amazon, nor can I find my tapes that I purchased from Amazon for the pink tape recorder. Anyway, she lastly said that I wrote down, my expectations are not everyone else's rule book. And I started thinking about, do I, when I'm interacting with people, whether it's familiar, whether it's friendship, whether it's relationship, do I make or try to make my expectations everybody's rule book? I don't know. It's very fascinating to me, though, that some of the things that she said or picked up on, I do know has been impacted because of my childhood. And maybe she's right. Maybe when there is pain, I don't want to be around it because I consider myself a pacifist. And she was like, that's very interesting, Aquinas, that you would say that you like to keep the peace. And this is how, again, she had me start looking up additional words. But am I shrewd? One of my coworkers said, Aquinas, the only thing about you that I would say may seem calculated is when we are, because we have to meet so many people, we happen to work together, that it seems almost automatic when you ask, hey, how you doing? What's going on? I was like, yeah, it's a natural reaction. That's something my mama taught me when I was a little girl. You don't just start talking to people. Like when I would have to sell fruit for band camp. Yes, I'm a band geek. My mom would say, I would say, Mom, we got to sell this. So she said, well, you need to talk to your aunties and uncles. But she also told us, don't just call them when you want something. You got to establish a relationship. So in my mind, whether I'm dealing with people who could be my friend or associates who are going to fall underneath my leadership, I need to know something about them, what brought them to the company, how their family. One young lady, a couple classes ago, she knew my little sister. I hope you don't think it's going to get you special treatment. It doesn't. But it's a small world. But that's just been fascinating to me. But what's been sticking out the most since last Wednesday's session is the fact that she said that I am unnurtured, I've been unprotected, and also that I have not been loved. And because of those three things that she said, and because of my childhood or experiences as a young girl, this is why I don't do well, or why I have not had the success that I wanted. Sorry, there's a fruit fly or gnat, one of them flying by. In relationships. So I am jumping topics. So there have been several men that have found me attractive, and I'm appreciative of that. I work hard to look good for myself first, because you have to have self-love first, because the outside is going to change. The world's going to change. They've been Black, they've been white, they've been Asian, they've been Hispanic, they've been Indian, they've been Native American, all across the spectrum. And I'll be honest with you, some of it surprised me because I never had that attention from the whole spectrum. But as I'm listening to her and as I replay how I interacted with Eric in my mind, did I? At the first sign of pain, did I leave? I hurt my back bothered me having to lift him. He was 250 pounds, 6'2" before he became just solid. He couldn't do anything for himself at the end there. Did I leave because that was pain? Or whether it was physical, or did I leave because of the mental anguish that it put me through? I don't know. I don't know about this unloved, about this not protected. Is she saying, or should I then think, because of some of the things I did witness as a young girl? So for one thing, I don't like for men, I don't care how short or tall you are, to yell at me. That's uncomfortable for me. But I'm quick to say, I'm not a child. I'm not your subordinate. You don't have to talk to me that way. It took me a lot of practice to be able to say, don't talk to me that way. Eric never, was loud, but he had a booming voice. I don't know. It's just interesting. And if nothing else, this therapist has caused me to think more about my actions before I actually take them. That's really all. that's really all I got. But I'm going to do my best to try and make sure I have a tape recorder so I can hear what she's saying and not missing it by writing it down. She says she's okay with it. We may actually do a live session one day. Who knows? It's an hour session, but it's very interesting how what happens in our youth or doesn't happen in our youth impacts us as adults. So then the thought just came to me, y'all. Am I operating as a scared Precious that's 6, 16, or 10 versus a 38, 39-year-old woman that I am and will be this year, who, based off how she described me, appears to be confident. There's no cowardice or lack of, but I do feel those things in certain situations. But don't we all? Like, is that what they're supposed to do? Ask you rhetorical questions and then expect you to be able to answer with a specific type of, this is the answer, this is not the answer, you know? I don't know. As I mentioned, I'm getting ready to go meet a fellow, and I'm thankful that he found the time or me interesting enough to come up the road. We do have some hours between us, and that's why I'm excited about being able to see him, because we've been, talking on the phone almost nightly. He's older than me, double digits, but he's putting forth an effort. So is that all it takes for me? Because he's not a tycoon, even though I know some of my girlfriends, co-workers, sisters, and like, yeah, he's got money. This man he's an entrepreneur, but it's not even that. It's the fact that he finds it in his schedule to call me every night. I don't know, it just seems like he wants to please me. I don't know. More on that, as in the words of the soap opera world, as the world turns. Well, that's all I got, beautiful people. Thank you so much for tuning in to what comes up, comes out. Please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you sign up for those notifications. And most importantly, comment. The last thing I want to share with you all is this is a healing process for me. So some days are going to be better than others, but through it all, I'm happy that I can look in the mirror and say that I'm doing what I need to do for me so that I can be the best version of myself, so that everyone else can see that in spite of what you're going through, what you've been through, you still don't have to be that thing. You can be better, you can be empowered, and you can be bold. Until next time, ciao, everybody.